Okay, hello and welcome to this screencast, which I will run through drawing a set of 3 treads in 3D and then use viewports and a sheet layer in order to display that on a virtual piece of paper. So first of all, I am going to draw the side of the set of treads. It's an easier way of doing it, and that should become obvious very shortly. So I'm going to change my view up here from top plan to right. And that means now when I draw the right hand side of the object, I'll be in the right view. I'm going to choose the polyline tool here, which is over in the basic tool palette. And I'm going to make sure that the corner vertex mode, the very first, it just means it's drawing lines, that's all. Okay, so I'm going to start round about the center, 0, 0. You can see zeros on the side of the page here, round about there. It's not really important at the moment. Click once and then I'm going to type in 600 because that will be the height of my set of treads. There'll be 200 risers by 200 treads. Once I've done that, move the cursor to the left, type in 200 and then hit return twice. 200, return, return, 200, return, return, and I'm just moving the mouse each time, just telling it which direction the line is going to go in, and then I'm typing in the length of that line. And there I can just finish it off by clicking the bottom corner there, and that object is highlighted, and you can see over on the right hand side it's a polyline. So make sure your object says polyline, and also see this little tick here that says closed. Make sure it's a closed object. You won't be able to extrude or turn a two-dimensional object into a three-dimensional object unless it's a closed polyline. So I've now got a closed polyline here on looking at the right hand side of it. So what I'm going to do now is to go to model and extrude, and I'm going to type in 1200 on 1.2 meters and OK, and that will pull this two-dimensional shape virtually towards me on the screen, a thickness of 1200. Because we're looking at the side of it, I can rotate that around a little bit and you can see why I drew it side view. If I go to the top plan view, I'm now looking down on it, and the left, I'm looking at the left hand side. So check that that's all right in your drawing, right isometric there. That's the modelling of the object done now. So the next thing to do is I'm going to create a sheet layer, which is my virtual piece of paper, or from the sheet layers where I will send my finished drawing to print. So the sheet layer is the 2D representation of the 3D object, if you will. So clicking on this little stack of papers here, I'm going to go into my organisation palette, it's here, where I can see sheet layers amongst other things. I'm going to create a new sheet layer, sheet number 1, and I'm going to call it 3 treads. I'm going to leave edit properties after creation ticked, and then I'm going to go in here into page setup. Don't worry about the stuff in here at the moment. Page setup, I'm going to leave that as one printer page, and I'm going to set my printer to be an A4 landscape. So you can see there the landscape icon. I'm going OK, 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 and we see that Vectorworks has shown me this blank piece of A4, virtual A4 paper. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a border and a title block on it while I'm here. So this little pencil and ruler here is all my dimensioning and all sorts of other interesting things in there, and you will see that there is a sheet border option. You might need to scroll down a little bit, but it's in there somewhere. So you click on that and then click, click, and it doesn't matter. I've deliberately made this a horrific jaunty angle just to show that because it says fit to page and lock to page center, when I click OK, it pops into locks itself to the page. Now the next little bit is it's up to you really. I like to neaten this up a little bit because I don't like the 1, 2, 3, the A and the B and the rest of it. So in the object info palette, and again the same applies, as long as the object is highlighted, the object info will give us editable information about any object. So border settings here. I'm going to change the thickness of the border from 12.7 to 5, and I'm going to get rid of, say, 0 zones. And you can see there where it's done, it's just made a nice double border around there. While I'm here, I'm going to add a title block, so that's just in the same area of the object info palette. And I'm just going to choose, say, simple title block there. And OK it. It's down in the bottom right hand corner there, because it says that there, bottom right. You can put it anywhere you like, there are options there. And I'm going to just make it a little bit smaller, so I'm going to change that scale factor from 1 to 0.5, which will make it half the size, which looks a little better. That's that done. So that's my border and my title block, and by double clicking on the title block I can then add information, of which I should add my name, definitely add the scale and any other information you want to send out with your drawing. Name, scale, date I think are pretty much mandatory. So back into the top toolbar again, we can see we've got a sheet layer and a design layer. Design layer is where the 3D model exists, and the sheet layer is this layer here. So I'm going to go back to my design layer again, and I'm going to go through the same step 5 times. I'm going to set a view, so top plan. I'm going to then say view, create viewport. I'm going to call it top plan. I'm going to send it to the sheet layer 1, which is the 3 treads, and I'm going to give it a scale of, say, 1 to 10, which seems right. All this again, it will be editable later, so we're just going to send that to the sheet layer, top plan, 1 to 10, and OK. And 1 to 10 is far too big, so across here in the viewport and the object info, I've got a simple drop down arrow, and I'm going to make it 1 to 25. You can see that live. It's a little small at the moment, you can see it changing. So 1 to 25 is a much better scale, so don't be afraid to just give someone a try and see how it works, because everything is editable in here. So that's the top plan done, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to put my design layer again, and following the same idea again, I'm going to go to front. I'm going to view, create viewport, call it front or elevation to give it its proper name. We knew the scale was 1 to 25, we'll keep all our views the same now. Send it to sheet layer 1, and there it is, it's appeared on my sheet layer. So I've now got a sheet layer with 2 viewports on it. I'm just going to line these up, if it lets me. Sometimes it's easier grabbing the corners and lining up. There we go. Back to the design layer again, and we're going to go to the right hand view. View, create viewport, right, 1 to 25. There are quicker ways of doing this, but I'm just doing this step by step so that it should be obvious. The steps are, I'll leave a little bit of space in here for dimensioning, and I'm going to go back to 10 again, do left, and again you don't need to be zooming in and out like I am, it's I'm just trying to show you what I'm doing. So that's left. Do make sure you name the viewports. When things get a little more complicated in your drawing, it's really important to have the viewports named correctly, so you can be sure what's what. I'm going to do one more just to do an isometric view, right isometric view, create, whoops, view, create viewport, ISO 1 to 25 again. I could have done this one a slightly different scale, but I'm just going to leave it like that just now. Okay. So that's me now got my A4 sheet layer, and I've got 1 to 25 representations of my 3D model on that sheet layer. I'm now going to dimension it, and there's a really important point here. The dimension tools are still under this pencil and ruler toolbox thing here. Common mistake is if I choose the dimension tool and then try and dimension straight onto the piece of paper, you can see there that the dimension it gave me was 48. Now clearly it's not 48, I defined it as 1200 when I drew it as a 3D model, so something's gone wrong here. And in fact, if I dimension it like this, what I'm doing is I'm measuring the size of the drawing on an A4 piece of paper. That's not what I'm interested in. I want to know what the size of the object is at 1 to 25. So it hasn't taken into consideration the scale. The way we do this is to double click on the viewport and go into Annotations before dimensioning. Because the viewport has a scale, the dimension tool will now understand and will dimension things properly. See, you must make sure that the border of the screen is orange. If you're dimensioning correctly, then the good hint is that you're in this orange bordered screen. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to dimension the elevations in a couple of different ways as well. Just for illustration, I'm going to choose the second option here, which is a chain mode, which will allow me to dimension things. So click, 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 and that allows me to do a quick dimensioning which shows that each tread is 200 high. And lastly, I'm going to dimension this one using the third option, which is a baseline mode, which will dimension each of the treads from a set dimension. So again, very, very quick to do that. This one has defined the back, or I defined the back of the treads as being the base, and it's defined 200, 400, 600 from there. That's pretty much it. So I built a 3D model. I then created viewports for the top, the front, the left, and the right. I provided an isometric. I've got a border with a toolbar and with a title block, which will show the scale in my name and the date and other information, and I've dimensioned correctly within the viewports. That's pretty much it, folks.